All right. So you can do the same thing, of course, on Windows. If somebody has a Windows server, so this one here, I've got a Windows server running, and it gives you a directory. So if you give it dot for the current directory, it will show you the contents of the current directory. So it's executing the command dir followed by whatever you give it. So again, you can inject things like who am I. In this case, you use an ampersand sign to inject stuff. So I can do who am I and show contents, and it will show you that not only, in this case, you are the administrator. So this server gets hacked pretty often and I have to restore it from images. But anyway, you can now execute arbitrary commands. And again, there are flags hidden on this server and you can find them by just injecting commands. It's the same thing on Windows. And here's a more interesting one, server-side template injection. This is from Jinja 2 and other modern templates that are used to make modern web pages. You can make your own copy of this server, or you can use the one that I've made. I'm just going to get the one I made for now. And once you've got this server up, this is a search engine. And if you search for anybody, it will always tell you it found them. It doesn't have any real database, but the point is to see how it creates this line of code. And it using something that came from me and echoing it back to me, and it's not filtering out meta characters. So if I put in curly brace, 2 plus 2, curly brace, then this part in here is interpreted as a command and not as literal text, and it gives me a 4. So again, I have command injection. I can send commands to the server and it will execute them. But once again, they're in this goofy language. They're in this template language, not in something like bash command shell. So all you have to do is learn how to use this template language. And in this case, when you do this kind of exploit, the first thing you have to do is fingerprint the server to figure out what the engine is. And there is a flowchart here. So you put in single curly braces 7 times 7. And if it does the math inside there, you follow the green arrow. And if it doesn't follow the math, you follow the red arrow. It doesn't execute that math. Then you try this one, and then you try this one, and then you can track down what it is and figure out which server-side template framework is being used by this web page. And once you've found one, there are blogs and such that can guide you how to hack it. And this one here is based on Python 3. And Python 3 has this unbelievable process. Let me bring up my command line shell. All right, here's my, my Google Cloud server. And let me shove this to the left and see if I can fit them both on the screen at the same time. All right, so Python 3 is object-oriented, and that means you can get away with murder. So if I run Python 3 here, same thing's true of Python 2, by the way, but this is in fact using Python 3. So if I put in a string, it's like hello, that creates an object, which is a string. And if I do a directory of the string, it will tell you that string has a whole bunch of things it can do. It's not just a simple sequence of bytes. It's an object, and it has methods attached to it. So I can do things like strip and upper and lower, and even things like class and contains and stuff like that. There's all kinds of methods I can execute on that string. So for example, I can do these. If I do S class, it'll tell me what kind of class this is, and it's a class string. It is a string type object. If I do S lower, it will tell me information about the lower method. And if I put open and close parentheses, it will perform the lower method attached to the string object, and that turns the string into lowercase. So this is how Python objects work, and that means if I'm allowed to inject a string, and I can inject this dot and other characters, I can use this to walk up the tree of inheritance. So let's try these. If I do S class, it's class string. If I do S class class, it's type. If I do S class base, it is object. So what has happened here is I have walked up the hierarchy tree and I've made it to the root of the entire Python 3 object system. So I'll make that a little smaller. Here's the point. I have a string, hello, but if I can add class and class, I get to type. Class base takes me to object. From here, I can walk back down and do anything. I have access to any Python command I want. And in particular, if I make it to this one called catch warnings, That one has a method called import, and I can import a Python library that the developer did not mean to import. So I can import the system library, and then I can execute bash command line from inside Python 3. So I can, by doing all of this, I can convert this template injection into bash command line injection. And that's what you do here. So it is pretty amazing, and it's good, clean fun. You end up with long, complicated strings that you have to inject, but you end up able to execute arbitrary code on the server. So that's, and again, there's some flags there for you to find. And here's a similar one, PHP FPM, a PHP engine, where again, you can do command injection. So let me save this one.